Good morning. Today on Spotlight, Detroit's yearly pilgrimage into the long historic road that separates east from west. Woodward Avenue, America's very first highway, and for many, the promised land where fast, colorful, and pristine classic cars and trucks pay honor to the city that put the world on wheels. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, it's Dream Cruise time. Our guest, Event Executive Director Tony Michaels, Ford Performance Marketing Manager Jim Owens, classic car owners David Agee, Charles Turner, Sherman Butler, and National Motorsports Association founder Carmen Carter. It's Sunday, August the 12th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Tony, you plan all year long for this, and it comes down to the weather. Yeah. How nervous do you get a few days before the big Dream Cruise?
You always get nervous, but the weather's going to be great.
You go to church, right?
Yeah, every week. The weather's going to be great. This is such a great celebration of the automobile of our region and people coming together, and it's just a special, special day. Yeah. It's hard to explain.
We're coming up on the 24th one. Why do you think this is such a hit? And it's not just here, it started here, but with the broadcast that we do, it's all over the country, and people are enthused about this nostalgia.
Think about what automobiles mean to people. Most people have one. They drive 2-3 times a day. They store cars, they buy other cars. This is a love, it really is. It's a love of the automobile, and whether old, young, in between, cars are it. They really are. And with all the news about, the autonomy, it's just front and center every single day.
Loyalty is extremely important at Ford Motor Company. And if you think about it, the people in Dearborn say they work for the Fords, right? It doesn't say you work for Ford Motor Company, you work for the Fords. So that connection going back, 1901, where Henry, won in Grosse Pointe, Michigan in a race that he used that winning to start Ford Motor Company 18 months later. This area has been surrounded by vehicles and that culture on the oldest road highway. Woodward is the oldest highway. What better place to do it? And you ask what was successful about it? We made a great connection with wonderful customers who love the automobile industry and the mobility that we are all talking about. From the moment that you get your first car and your first driver's license from 16 till the time that you turn in your keys at the end, this is a connection point. Ford Motor Company recognized that connection point, and the ability to communicate with these customers about being the most trusted mobility company in the world.
What is it that people seem most attracted to? Is it the hot rods? Is it the really fast cars? Is it the trucks, or all the in between?
Do you want me to answer this first? I think it's everything.
I'm dying to hear which car that is.
Well, we talk about Mustangs and the old Mustangs, and Jim will tell you a little secret that I didn't know in just a second about Mustang. But I think it's hot rods and the muscle and all of those things, because it's just so interesting to younger people who maybe didn't grow up in those days of the muscle cars, and then the people who did, how they cherish their automobiles and take care of them. And here they come in this parade that goes for 16 miles down Woodward.
I think it is individual to each of the million people who come. For some of them, it's the bright neon lights underneath an old 37 coupe, right? Where they put the neon on. For some, it's the big, huge, smoky burnout tires that you put on there. But all of it connects back to the families that have grown together through the vehicles, where they get to celebrate the family aspect of it and the vehicle aspect of it with a million of their closest friends.
Absolutely. And you teased a little trivia that you learned from that you say that's Mustang.
Longest continuous running nameplate. Some of our friends over at General Motors might have skipped a model year, and so the Mustang is that most continuous running nameplate. But the Mustang and that car culture, even with our friends at Chevy, with the Camaro and Dodge, with their Challenger and Chargers over the period of time, that muscle car era still competes today, if you think about it. You know,
sure.
I have don't have an oval tattooed anywhere on my body you can see, but there's a lot of those people. There's a lot of those people who, you know, my Mustang is better than your Camaro.
Right.
And this Dream Cruise gives us an opportunity to have that competition, and you know, to engender that competition going for future generations. And it could be muscle cars, it could be the 37 Coupe, it could be your favorite Lightning pickup truck, you know, with the big engine and the big tires. It could be a lot of those different cars, but I think it's unique to each individual.
All right, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we want to talk about some of the attractions this year that you feel people need to partake in. And then we want to talk about muscle cars and performance cars today and what people have an opportunity to buy that might be in that future Dream Cruise 25 years from now. So we'll be right back. Stay with us. This has been a huge year, public relations wise, in this town for Ford. They decided to buy that iconic train station, 5-year or so plan to be able to renovate that. The publicity that came from that around the world, and then this comes on the back of that. This really, I think, puts in the minds of people that this company that has been around forever really cares about this town and is invested in the future of where we're headed.
Yeah, we're invested in the community, and from the Ford family and Jim Hackett and the leadership, investing down in that Corktown area where our autonomous vehicles, you know, the Team Edison group work out of. Yeah, we're founded in Dearborn, and you know, in that city of Dearborn, but it goes throughout the whole southeastern Michigan community, and a chance to, you know, be in that building that is so iconic for a lot of people going through there. I mean, we did a video with Ken Block, who is a drifter, right? And if you've ever seen some of the stuff he's done, and we actually did the video 3 years ago in through the parking lot right around the corner in the back, and did the video coming through where we were demonstrating our performance. So what better iconic building than, you know, that is right downtown the Corktown, and to see that area and then to do it with performance vehicles. So we're really happy to be investing back in the community down there, and you know, being part of the Detroit Renaissance.
Ford Fund, Jim Bell and his team, and Driving Skills for Life, and what's happening at Dream Cruise, right?
So at Westbourne Market, which is going to be really good for our customers to see, whether you're a GM customer, a Ford customer, or any other customer. Part of the Driving Skills for Life is to keep people safe behind the wheel, whether it's autonomous or not. And at Westbourne Market, they're going to be demonstrating and giving rides in what I like to call the skid car. Right, that induces spinning and teaches the people how to control it safely in a very controlled and safe environment. So Driving Skills for Life is a great program. We're so glad to have the Ford Fund on board with it, and they're going to be down at Westbourne Market demonstrating some of those technologies that, you know, in the autonomous vehicles might not be as prevalent, but in today's vehicles is the safety that we need on the road.
And I know you work closely with the businesses, particularly up and around Woodward and everything, because many of them will close for that day. Some of them will stay open, and some will figure out, okay, how do I use this as a marketing tool to further my business, even though it might be a little bit of an inconvenience today?
That is the key, learning to use it, to say, there's this massive humanity, these great people out there. What am I doing as a business owner to draw more in and to really take advantage of this situation? Because it is a once a year on that stretch of Woodward. I mean, it is a lot of people. So a lot of great business owners have taken the initiative to learn how to deal with it, and that's a really good thing.
And the cities work really well, because this is a city-based organization, and they have not only their employees but all of the volunteers that help, I think, connect the cities and the people who come to the Dream Cruise to those businesses to ensure that they share in the success that, you know, of the Dream Cruise in a manner that's appropriate for the cities and the businesses.
So Jim, you want to take a excuse me, you want to take a stab at what we're driving and buying today that might be hits of future Dream Cruise? A lot of publicity over this Bullet.
Yeah, so the Bullet Mustang, and we're you know, that is the most iconic chase scene ever in movie history now. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
It is.
I mean, it is one of those ones that, you know, everybody recognizes, and with Steve McQueen and the Bullet driving over the street of San Francisco,
right,
you know, going airborne over there with the Dodge chasing it. That car will be launched. And we will be having it both at Dugan's, at Mustang Alley. It will also be driving along Woodward with some people behind the wheel of it. So I mean, it's going to be...
And those people will remain anonymous
until they're
but
seen
closely tied to the Ford Motor Company.
Posted on Channel 7's Facebook page, right? Pictures of these people behind the wheel. But that's one of those iconic cars. But, you know, your Shelby GT350s, your Raptors, your Focus RSs, those are those performance vehicles today that the kids are looking at and putting posters and pictures on their phones, and that they'll be chasing 20 years from now. And those are all at the heart of the Ford performance. Mustang, for example, will always be there. You know, at Mustang Alley, which is 9 Mile in Ferndale, we're celebrating our 20th year. And the thing that we love to do is Carl Widman, who's the chief Mustang engineer, his team will be down there, and we will have over 200 volunteers from the company who will be working with those customers, bringing in more than 1,000 Mustangs there. But it's that volunteer spirit that support it from, you know, these guys and gals have full-time jobs around here, and what do they want to do? They want to volunteer with the communities of the Woodward Dream Cruise to share the love and passion of those cars.
Final question. We're always talking about the image of Detroit. A lot of people have their eyes on this city because of the revitalization, the turnaround with downtown, midtown, and now working its way into the neighborhoods. What does this mean in terms of selling that image so that it transforms and it reverberates economically in this town?
I'll tell you what, every great city in this country, and we are one of them, has big events, great events that bring people together in a great way. If you look at Detroit and the things that we have, and this is one of the biggest, it says a lot about our city. A great place to live because we have a lot going on, a lot of family entertainment, camaraderie, people coming together, celebrating what is ours, the automobile in this city and in this region. It says so much about our region, and I think it's one of those things that tells people move here, work here, live here, play here. Detroit is it.
And we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because 2020 is a little bit away. We've got to do an auto show in 2019 of January, but then it moves to June. And that's going to be right before the Grand Prix, right before the Dream Cruise of that year, but it's all closer together now.
Yeah, it really is. You're going to go from a race on Belle Isle to all kinds of things, fireworks, a golf tournament. It's going to be crazy, but you know what? What does that say about our great city? And companies like Ford are there in so many of these things. You know, you think about a global company that can do things in any city in the world. They never, ever forget their home. And that means the world to so many who call this home.
And if you think about it, Tony, and the cities that put on the Woodward Dream Cruise are bringing millions of people from multiple continents to be in Detroit during that time, where we can showcase what the city is all about, and Ford is glad to be a partner with that.
Coming up, these classic car owners talk about and display their labors of love. We'll be right back. How long have you been into collecting cars?
About 20 years.
How'd you get into it?
Sherman, an old friend of mine, came over one of these old school cars, and I seen it and I fell in love with it.
If you don't mind me asking, Mr. Butler, how old are you?
92. I will be 93 the 22nd of this month.
That is fantastic. And you love cars.
All my life.
That's a 68 Buick Wildcat.
Right.
You're the original owner?
Yes.
That car has never been restored?
Never. Nope.
From 1968 to 2018, You haven't had to do any restoring on that car.
No.
You just take darn good care of your cars.
Right. Yeah.
And the secret to keeping a car in tip-top shape is what?
Well, it's taking care of it.
And don't drive it in the winter.
Don't drive it in the winter.
How many cars do you have that you watch over?
Oh, I got 3 classic cars that I watch over now.
All right, this is one of them, the
Right.
Stingray. What year?
A 73, and I got a 62 Thunderbird, and I got a 72 Deuce and a Quarter.
Wow. Now tell me a little bit about the history of the car that we're sitting in. What was it like when you first got it? Where did you get it?
When I turned 50 years old, I went to Utica, New York, near Buffalo, and I bought it, and it was it was rusty. And I changed the color, did the interior, the tires, the engine, and everything over.
You did most of the work yourself?
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
It's worth it?
It was worth it because I got to see the finished product after I finished with it.
Why do you think Americans are so into classic cars and preserving and restoring these cars?
Because it brings back old memories. You know, like back in the 70s and the 60s, it brings back old memories. Yes.
Do you have a favorite among your cars?
I think I like the Corvette. It is my favorite.
You've had this in the Dream Cruise before?
Yes, sir.
And what kind of attention does it get?
Oh, it get a lot of attention. A lot of attention.
Do the guys like it better or the girls?
The girls.
What kind of engine in there?
I got a 350 stroke in here, boarded out 30 over, with 21 pistons in there, a roller rockers and headers, and a cam in there. It costs about maybe $40 to fill it up, and if I go on the Woodward Cruise and go all the way up to Pontiac, by the time I get there, it's on E.
Now, you also mentioned you've got the Thunderbird over here, and you got the Electra 225, better known as the Deuce and a Quarter, or you told me way back when they called it what?
They call it a nickel and 2 dimes.
A nickel and 2 dimes.
Back in the day, back in the 70s.
Right, right.
I remember they used to put the pillars in the back of it, and then they had the curves where you roll up against the curve, and then they had the lightning straps in the back. I did have some, but they came off.
I remember my dad had a blue Deuce and a Quarter. I want to say it was 68 or 69, but I was a kid, so I might be wrong about the year. What do you hope happens to these cars years from now? Do you want them to stay in the family? Do you try to sell them off to make money, or is this just a labor of love?
Well, I'm going to give them to my grandson. He's 8 years old. And I hope that he keeps them in the family and give them to his kids, I hope. That Deuce and a Quarter was my granddaddy's car. He bought it in 72. He died in 75. My mama took that car and put it in a pole barn and wouldn't let us touch it till 2003 until she died.
Really?
Yes.
So there aren't many miles on that?
No, it's about maybe 15, 16,000 miles on it.
15 or 16,000 miles, and it's a 72?
72. We can't forget Detroit. Because without Detroit, we wouldn't be on wheels today.
Put the world on wheels.
That's right.
And now let's travel from Detroit to this very unassuming building in Novi. We're sitting in the facility of Harold Martin, right?
Harold Martin. Harold Martin is a good friend of mine. His family, he's more like family than a friend. This facility, Harold has opened his arms and let me use his facility, and he's a great guy, a great friend.
You have how many classic cars personally?
Ooh, let's see. I would say classic cars, I have 12.
Okay.
Yep.
All
12.
different types?
Yep, all General Motors though, except for one. I have a Barracuda.
So you love GM?
Oh, I love GM. That's the mark of excellence. That's not an accident. That's for real.
What's behind me?
That was a gift from Harold to his dad. Houston Martin, that's his car. Harold bought it for him as a gift and presented it to him.
Pontiac?
It's a Pontiac, 56 Pontiac.
Okay.
Yep. 455 cubic inch motor though. That's not.
You can hear it.
You can hear
coming
it, yeah,
before you actually see it.
It's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful token of appreciation he did for his dad. The climate we grew up in, with the big three being here, most of our parents worked for plants and stuff like that. A lot of guys. That's where it came from. It came from that. And then when you get older and you want to improve the quality of your life, cars was always the symbol, you know what I mean? The Deuce and a Quarter, you mentioned the Wildcat, you know, the Bonnevilles, you know, the Cadillacs, you know, that's how it all happened. So later on, when the cars start going fast, you know, we all got involved in that too. So.
When Spotlight returns, Carmen Carter of the National Motorsport Association.
When I approached a number of enthusiasts, they all said, no, you do it and we'll support you. That person was Hollywood Sam, and then he sent me to Harold Martin, and then that led to Dot and Edders, and that led to my brother, who kind of confirmed that go forward with this because we do need it. And what I found out is, by large, is that they did not have time to do the business of this, or the media relations, or the outreach, right? And you ask them to do anything outside of going up under the hood, and you won't get a lot of cooperation. They just don't have the time. A lot of their spare time is spent under the hood. Then the guys, I mean, they were concerned about not being able to participate in the Woodward Cruise, not being able to get to the auto ram, and they really thought it was because they weren't liked, and sometimes they weren't, but it was by large because they didn't have the time and the space to make the approach and get involved. And then what happened after we started in 1996, during the 100 year of the car, people began to formulate more and more car companies, and we involved ourselves, but the main focus that we've always had was to grow the enthusiasm about the motorsports, the fun side of the automotive industry, because we think that we ought to enjoy that side. Just
and now you see more and more of them in the Woodward Dream Cruise.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's just hundreds and hundreds across the state of Michigan and all over the world with the Woodward Cruise here, and the Automotive been one of the largest of its kind in the world.
Final question, you're also using the National Motorsports Association to fundraise for other entities in our community that you feel deserve a lot of attention, such as the Motown Museum.
Absolutely. What we really feel is that we need to do what we can to provide some kind of outreach to our youth so that they can take on industries such as the automotive industry. There's a serious lack of engineers. It was in 1996 when we started, and the lack of it is even more larger this year. Where do we start and try and get these youth to see that it's not only is it fun, it's a viable industry? And the same thing with Motown. We don't really have our hands on our youth the way we should. And I will tell you that our youth are more excited about cars than they are on Christmas Day. And we need to capture that. And that's really my fascination with this, is that how are we going to take that fascination and parlay it into something productive and career, so people can actually enjoy and also make a living.
Carmen, thank you so much. Best of luck with the National Motorsports Association, and we're going to keep tabs on what you're doing and what it's doing. Well, rev up your engines. It's Dream Cruise time. That's it for today. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. Special thanks to all of my guests. Have a great week.